Welcome, armchair generals and classical enthusiasts. This is Gamer 1745, and we're going to be taking a look at Imperator Rome 2.0, the Marius update, along with all of the DLCs. And we're going to, in furtherance of that, we're going to be looking at Egypt as one of the nations that get new content. I really find this period very much of interest. I'm sort of have an interesting fascination with the Ptolemies, but not just the Ptolemies. I'm also the Seleucids, the sort of, Greek successor, Basileus. I don't really know exactly how you would say that. Is it Basileus? That word there. That come in the wake of Alexander the Great. Alexander's death, and I know there'll be a bit here about it. I guess I like, more or less, I like the world the way it is today, so the events needed to happen, I guess, to make it the way it is today, but I do think it's one of the lost turning points in history is Alexander's early death. So we're going to be playing here, looking mostly at the game, but talking about this. So we're going to play as Egypt. Antigonid, if you can successfully play the Antigonids, and it's as difficult as it should be, that's an advanced level. Egypt is one of the easier of the great powers here, I would say. But I'm not playing because it's easy. I'm playing because I sort of find Egypt cool. What I find, and I definitely as a kid, I had a fascination with ancient Egypt, not this Egypt, the Egypt, that was building the pyramids and the Valley of the Kings and all those kind of things. But that mixed with the Greek influences in Alexandria to make a really interesting cultural look there. So yeah. And of course, as we get started here, if you're new here, please subscribe or follow on Twitch. Love to have you around more often. Okay, 18 years ago, the Agriad king, last names are not and maybe as well defined as we would today. Argiad, and I'm not used to saying it, but King Alexander III died suddenly. Alexander the Great is what they're talking about, of course. In Babylon, at the age of 32, in the 5 years preceding his death, his continuing military success had reshaped the world known to the Greeks, his empire stretching uninterrupted from Egypt to the Indus. And he really was thinking the Indus, and then, a little bit of, India on the other side of it, not India that we see here, and then he was going to be at the edge of the continent. Man, they did not know what was really out there. The suddenness of Alexander's early death and his lack of success at reshaping the world, no, to the Greeks, yes. They did know the world to the west, and Alexander was going to get there eventually, but obviously he didn't. Sudden death, early death, and his lack of chosen successor. That I would dispute is sent shockwaves through the hierarchy, satraps, and the generals who attended him, splintering his empire into elements ruled by these potentate style, the Diadochi. That's these guys here. That's Alexander. For many years, they and their successors have been locked in a bitter struggle for the future of the empire, drawing all nations within their sphere of influence into the conflict. The wars of the Diadochi will surely continue. Perhaps it is up to Egypt to decide how they will end. And hello, Rocco, how you doing? Have you tried out the new DLC? Really massively revamping Imperator Rome? Okay. You're going to hear me complain about things through this, like one of them. I don't know whether it's just people's expectation, but why this is called Egypt, and this gets to be called the Antigonid Kingdom and the Seleucid Empire. This I would really call the Ptolemaic empire, if you will, and it does grow. Mostly really liking it. I've played it for an hour plus, maybe a little bit more earlier today, so I really haven't gotten in it very far into it. I definitely like that inventions you no longer pay money for, but I'm not entirely sure what determines your we have 8 innovations now. I'm not entirely sure what generates that, and we're going to get to that very soon. I like the idea that inventions, and you click on these, now have a tree, if you will, because sometimes you need to develop the wheel before you develop a cart or something like that, as opposed to just a roller. Sometimes there's definitely the idea of you need things done earlier than later. So that doesn't mean I'm agreeing with, and I haven't really looked at it in any detail, all of what's required here, but I definitely like the idea of it. So there's a lot of good. I'm got to get used to it. It's not, I'm just used to having basically this bar across the top. I like the color scheme. I hate the turquoise on this, but I like that in the where before it was just, you had a binary choice of missions, this or this other thing. Now here currently we have a choice of 4 missions, and some of them are definitely focused supposedly on not just generic, improve this region, but stuff based on the history. Do you think Paradox next game will be Victoria 3? Well, I believe it's in development. I have no real inside information about Victoria 3. We all knew that. I think we all know that Victoria 3 is in development, along with, which had been, now obviously is out now, Crusader Kings 3. I don't know if it'll be next. I think Imperator Rome was a big wake-up call for Paradox. They had gotten lazy with it. I think at release it was an okay game. The last major update is finally where it got to where it should have been at release, in my opinion, at least, if not something like this. They just got lazy and it didn't go over very big. And I think they realized that, and they may have to be put more effort into their initial release of games. So, okay. Now, we have a scorned family here, but we only have 2 Maghreds, because we can't really put women on anything, so I guess they're going to recruit some more people, maybe. So we're stuck, because both of these guys have a job. So, but we will come here. We have one title of Philosophe. Now, I don't know in this game, and I am in no way, and I guess right now mostly it's just Rocco here, an expert on this game. Don't know if I were to pick somebody like him who is Kemetic and not Hellenistic religion, if it changes anything, but we're going to use him for Philosophe and the religion strength there. So we're going to do that. Now we're also going to come here, look at our imports. Now, I don't know if anybody saw my earlier videos. One was really sort of frustrated on legions, and I found out that yes, we can only recruit 1 legion, though it's not clear here that there can only be, you can only have 1 legion currently for Rome. Okay, these are all the possible unit types this legion can have, because these are found somewhere in our empire. Well, as you can see here, they have elephants. I presume we get reinforcements there, but I want to have elephants. The Ptolemies had elephants. So, one thing I do like about this is that it's starting out with some imports. Again, those watching here may complain a lot about Paradox games. I don't like that Paradox games sort of starts with nothing and you build things. What? No, you gotta get tech is here. Okay. Okay, I can see the idea that maybe Egypt at this time for a standing army would only have, I learned use the middle mouse button, or often sort of the wheel, but push the wheel down to sort of grab and move this. I could not figure, for the life of me, I didn't, that wasn't an intuitive knowledge, and there was nothing that I saw telling me how to do it. So that we can look through here, but also come to here in traditions. This bothers the hell out of me. Not that there's traditions limiting this stuff, and Greek polis traditions, so Greek city traditions, Greek kingdom traditions, and Levantine kingdom traditions are the three that are open to us. I yet don't quite honestly know, and if anybody, we may figure this out after a time, whether we can work our way down multiples of these without canceling out one of these, or once we go with one of these, it's permanent. Okay. What I don't like about this is the Sarissa was perfected before Alexander crossed the Bosphorus and goes on his, rampage across Persia. And Silver Shields was his elite unit. By now, after, there were still maybe some old veteran Silver Shields and newly raised. Hey, thanks for following the channel. Do appreciate it. Very much so. This is either the old veterans or some new recruits into the old veterans units, often family members. I know they were doing some of that. And the Silver Shields was becoming sort of working for multiple units. So I don't know that that's really appropriate. But that the idea of the Phalanx and the Sarissa, which is what they're sort of, I guess, basing on it, should be something known to the Ptolemies, should be known to Macedon, should be known to the Antigonids, should be known to the Seleucids at start. Now, maybe not to the Rhodians, not that they've not seen them. And I can give you a little bit of history. I've read a really great book called Legion versus Phalanx. I think that's the title. Or is it Phalanx? It's either Phalanx versus Legion or Legion versus Phalanx. Very good book. And he's a historian who looks at the histories and looks at about the 5 battles that they have documentation left on them, that where Legion and Phalanx actually fight each other. And he analyzes them and does a bunch of other research. Well, as what we know as sort of the Roman Legion is coming about, the Phalanx had been the dominant form of military fighting, and the only one that really mattered. Everything else was just sort of auxiliary type units to it. If you had enough Phalanx, basically you won until the rise of the legions. And the legions overtake it, and he talks about why ultimately. But even as the rise of the legions are happening and previous dominance of the Phalanx, he comments that there's at least one city-state that's sort of hiring out mercenaries, if you will, that are still doing the hoplites. The hoplites have a shorter spear, larger shield. Those are sort of the two simple thing to define them. How's the new update? Well, we're taking a look at it. I'm generally liking it. Generally liking it. I mean, I still have problems, but generally liking it. So yes, it's doing good. So they still have the hoplite tradition, and this is, we're looking, almost a couple, 100 or 100 or 200 years after this time. So I could see at this time, at the beginning of this game here, a bunch of Greek city-states may still primarily be on hoplite tactics and not on... Oh, and the map is much improved. Much improved. You get the idea of, impassable ridge here, impassable ridge here, and as well as, you can see things. Might not make huge differences on some of this. Also, it seems to be, though I don't know, I'm not entirely... I thought once you took a provincial capital, I thought it would automatically take the rest of the province. But in my earlier play, it didn't seem to, so I'm not too sure of it. Because I really hated the whole chase down each province and have the enemy also running around. And so you're playing, playing almost a game of tag or whatever, trying to... Yeah, some of the stuff was screwy. So that seems to be getting better. But so... At this time, there was still a lot of hoplites as the sort of dominant heavy infantry unit in the Greek world. And not all Greeks were, onto the sarissa. The sarissa is the really long pike, if you will. The Phalanx is noted for the really long pike and a smaller shield, lighter shield. They're actually, in a way, lighter troops than the hoplites. There are heavy hoplites. I mean, there are heavy Phalanx types, but they're wearing heavier armor. Some are wearing lighter armor. Some down to cloth armor. Some at bronze cuirasses and bronze greaves. So it does change a little bit. But the idea of the smaller shield is so that you can have two hands on the sarissa and still have a shield instead of I forget what the shorter hoplite pike is called. So that's one of the things I don't like. And now we're going to see about correcting some of this. But what I don't like is the sort of blank slate, the tabula rasa of Paradox games, and that, here, okay, so let's look. Okay. Now they can do modernized Phalanx. So I guess this is where they start out with for the Greek Polish. So here's talking about, I guess, moving to, I'm guessing they're referring to the Phalanx instead of the hoplites. So that would be their first jump here. Well, it's partially responsible for success. Originally evolved out of the need for highly defensive armored formations used by the Greek city-states making. Well, no. The Phalanx originally evolved out of the need for a highly defensive armored formation used by the Greek city. Oh boy, that's not what the Phalanx means. Thank God. It's like light troop. Not good. Greek does change over the years, meaning, but the hoplites are in their tight formations well before this. Okay, well, I don't know how much bitching you want to hear from me, but so meaning I think some of this should be at start, and then others, I don't know that, Phoenician sailors, that's maybe something that you should, the Ejima. cavalry. Now, I don't know how much of the heavy cavalry made it down into Egypt. The cataphractoi. The cataphracts is, you can see down bottom down there. Yeah. So some of that, yeah, should be developed over time. I totally agree. And we can see the, development over time, improvement of the Roman legions. So, yeah, okay, idea slots. I hate the ideas that they want to force me into here. So let's come here and I want complex tariffs. I want standardized construction and I think I'm just going to go, yeah, with tax farming. So I'm not going to get the bonuses. Monthly tyranny, national citizen, that helps, or happiness and desire for freeman ratio cities. I don't really care. I mean, those would be nice, but I don't care enough about them to do that. Okay. Mostly I think I have enough food. So we're going to go for more output from freemans. Now, there's some really good citizen or civic advances here. Advanced standardization, build cost down percent. 10% I really want, and you need standard import. Yeah, I really want. And there's definitely things here I want. There's definitely stuff here I want. But what I really, really want is cohorts. Well, do I now? Oh, maybe not. Okay. We have a legion. Now we can increase the size of the legion by increasing the number of units within it and whatnot, but we only have one. Now, to get more, we need to go to Royal Army instead of Royal Guard, is what we currently have. Now, to do the Royal Army, we need to have cohorts, which is that invention. Get down there, and Egypt needs to be a great power. To be a great power, I believe, from looking at the wiki, though it may be out of date by this point, need to have 500 provinces and or territories, not provinces, territories, and we currently have just under 200. So we're not going to get that anyways. So I guess because I really want to get to that, but I don't know. Okay, well, since we're not going to get there that fast, and this would be my preferred path, let's come to civic advances. Import value, yes, that will help us out. Standardize mechanics will help us out. Construction costs greatly. And we have 8 of these basically free at start. And I am not sure yet what generates more of this number. What do you think of Paradox plans for Victoria 3? Hey, Pino, how you doing? I really don't know about their plans enough to know what they're going to do for Victoria 3. Probably fuck it up. But that seems what they've been doing recently, so I guess people are pretty happy with. I have not played Crusader Kings 3. Played 2 some, but not 3, don't own it yet. But I guess people are generally happy with that. Oratory Advances, okay. Divine Mandate, aggressive. Triumphal coins. That seems a very Roman thing. Justice wants me here, which isn't bad. change in maintenance cost reduction would be very nice. So I'm going to head towards that. Capital import routes are good. Property, national tax. Okay, so that would be one more. We have 3 more to do. You do 2, 3. We could get to there with 2. So let's grab this one. You need to find ones that are going to fit your play style. How aggressive are you going to play? And how developmentally shall you going to play? Yeah, I've played a little bit of Vicky too, but not a lot. Just more comes in the realm of too many games to play. Okay, now we do own, and this is, I found this, I here didn't know this, we do own this little territory here. I think it's just this one, and it has a building on it, a fortress. Since it's a territory and not a town, we can't upgrade it. But yeah, we have this up here. Hey IKB, how you doing, my friend? Been a while since we talked. We gotta play Railway Empire sometime. More of that, finish some more off. Okay, guess there's not a whole lot we can do up here. It has food enough. Okay, just sort of a nice little position. So, what we're gonna do here is deal with the imports now. I know this is just starting, but Paradox games, you need to take some time to start. Okay, we don't have a lot of food stored up, but it looks, well, I don't know. Okay, well, I'm going to cancel our Pyrus. And we're going to import elephants. We're going to grab that up from Ptolemaic down in the south. Weekend. Okay, maybe Friday. I know we're going to also be doing a live stream too, but maybe Friday or the weekend. I don't know. I do want to do some more of that. Now let's come over here. And we have 2 import routes here. We are importing wine. We don't need extra wine here. So we're going to cancel the extra wine. And we're going to import steppe horses. Let's get some steppe horses. Now, you will see when we come to the military legions, we can add cohorts of steppe horses and war elephants. So we can add more of that. Right, so now here. Okay, currently it is set up to have sort of the secondary reserve, whatever main group as being heavy infantry, primary front cohorts as archers, and flanking as light cavalry. Well, we have no light cavalry, and we have no archers. This isn't really a good formation setup for this. Well, we're going to change this to heavy cavalry. At least it's click it up there, and we're going to put our frontal group as being light infantry because we have those at least. So now when it starts with that, we have that at least. Right. Okay. Now, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a positive situation for income. I think most of our trade routes are sort of automatically done here. Okay, well, let's look at this a little bit more. I want to cancel this route. And I want to cancel this route. Oh, I don't like because when it says cancel, because that's what I'm going to do a cancel, and it's okay to just counterintuitive. Now we can replace. Well, let's see. I want to have. Let's see. I want to have olives come in here, and we want to come in from. Okay, now we're going to import a second group of olives, and we can bring them in from, yeah, Cyrenaica. Let's try that for a while. That way we are getting the benefit of plus 8% national slave happiness. So our slaves like us more. Okay, so slaves like us more. I think, okay, now, the other thing I want to do is we're going to start right away. We have 4 possible missions. The matter of punt, basically it's come down here and conquer things. I presume it hasn't changed, don't know, that it hasn't changed from before. Then we have the Greater Empire. While the wars of the Diadochi rage on, Egypt sits in a relatively safe position protected by air. Okay. This mission will be considered complete when you have asserted your dominance over the neighboring peoples of Nubia and Cyrenaica, exploited the possibilities offered by our southern borders, and set up relationships with the powers in the Western Mediterranean. The big thing is I don't really want to push down into here. Right now, Cyrenaica we may take anyways. The eastern border. Well, we very well. Okay, this mission will be considered complete when Egypt eastern border of the Egyptian kingdom will be secured through the conquest of Palestine, Phoenicia, Syria, coastal Asia Minor along the contended Diadochi. So basically taking a lot of this. Good plan. But what I really want to do is the Macedonian pharaohs. Pharaoh has reigned over Egypt for a millennia. That means 1,000 years, people. Deputy of the gods among mortals. I'm not going to read all of this. The holders of divine alphabet, but a little bit more. Pharaohs owned all the lands of Egypt, officiated. Okay. This mission will be considered complete when the prosperity of Egypt has been ensured, together with the institution of specifically Ptolemaic cults and festivals. That's the mission I want to start here. So we're going to start that. Okay, so it's just these. Okay, a royal capital. Okay, so we need to convert Alexandria to Metropolis. Is that now done here? Used to be under build. Over farmland. As you can tell, yeah, this is really the first time really playing it. I mean, I've played a little bit, but I haven't. This is to like build. There's no available building slots for that. Yeah, I know. I know it used to be down here in the corner for this has been productive. Fortified province, yeah. Yeah, I'm understanding some of this. Okay. Some of these are new. We could build a port. We have port level 3. Yeah, earthworks. There are some new buildings here. Well, I don't know how to convert that to a metropolis from just being a polis. I guess would be the diff. Let's come over here. Okay, provincial right. Where do I click the button to make this into a polis? I presume that would be the same. Place to do it. Here. Yeah, I hope you're all enjoying this. I know this isn't terribly exciting. Watching some guy futz around with a game that he doesn't understand. I mean, it's probably something simple, but, okay. Yes, but how do I make... something policy change? No, I don't want to change the governor. Well, you know, when all else fails, use your friend Google. Go to okay. Clear system right. No. These are all old, so those won't be it. Yeah, those won't be it. I need to make another ranting video for someone to show me. Oh man. Everybody looks like they want to move to... Okay. Let me do this. Be there, I thought. Well, maybe it's already down there. isn't. What? Well, there it is. Okay. Where did the go to level CIDIEs and where did the button go to form cities in Metropolis? Is, I don't know, whatever, we're just going to do that. Post reply to my earlier thread. Maybe that will get an answer here. Let me move this over to another window so I can sort of keep an eye on it, maybe a bit. Refresh it every few minutes while we continue. Okay, so that's one thing. We need to get that to be a metropolis status. Okay, the clerk, the clerk, don't know. Okay, so these need to have city statuses and they don't. Huh. Okay, well, they used to, okay, let's move to here, it looks like. Fine, Luxury, X. Am I spelling it right? No, Y, R, Y, R. Yes, that's it. Okay. Yes, the map has changed. Right, we need to get this to a city status as well. We want to relocate the capital. Ah, okay, it's over here. Nah, never mind. Okay, I guess it's over. No, I don't want that. Yes, it's this thing here. Town city. Okay, well, I guess that's city, but how do we get to a metropolis? Okay, found metropolis. Okay, there we go. Found it. Let me just go back and delete that other thing. Found it. Get it. It's here. Never mind. It. Never mind. Okay, so it's here. So we need population greater to or equal than 80. Hello, Das G. I have a question. How did the successor could take control of a territory like that, like Ptolemy taking control of Egypt? Oh, I'll explain that in just a moment. Okay, so we need to get to 80, and we're currently at 50. So this is going to be a long time before we even get to the beginning of some of these missions here. Well, here we can maybe do some of these. That one here we can, let's see, we don't have, well, we do sort of have the money, political power, yes, we have. Okay. And fill. I'm never good with these. It's Philoter. Philoterus, there we go. Okay, this also needs to be a city. Okay, both of those need to be a city. Yeah, I've changed the map. Okay, Okay, we're not going to do that yet. We're going to still stay on this mission, but we're not going to start yet. I know there's going to be a war coming up here soon, and I don't want to spend the money on it. Okay, here's what happens. Alexander dies in Babylon. Over here, I guess, province of Babylonia, Babylon, whatever. Dies over here. Okay, now, he has a half-brother who has mental problems. I don't know what it is. Some people think that maybe he was poisoned as a young kid, or as a kid or something, and although surviving the poison, he had mental problems. But everybody knew he had serious, like, intelligence issues. Okay, I don't know. I don't think it's Down syndrome, but maybe that. But he's, like, really sort of slow and stupid. So it's something's affecting his mind. Okay, so he has a brother who's, I think, a little older than him. A little bit. Okay. Yes, you can have papyrus. So he has a brother back in Macedon. Okay, back up even further. To become king of Macedon, here, the way you become king is you bury the previous king, okay? And this is very important, he who buries the previous king of Macedon is the new king of Macedon. Okay, so I guess if you go into battle, with the king of Macedon, like start a civil war or whatever, and you kill the current king of Macedon, and then make a nice tomb for him and bury him over there, you're the new king of Macedon. Or, hey, if you're his son, say like when Philip II dies, Alexander, he buries his father. I don't think he was at all involved with killing his father. But his father is assassinated. So there's a possibility that Alexander's mother was, but I don't think Alexander was involved in it. So he buries his father. That's how you become king of Macedon. And this is for generations. Right. So at the time, it's been a while since I've read all this. So at the time of Alexander the Great's death, he has his wife, Roxanne, who's pregnant and about ready to give birth. He does, or she does afterwards. And so they set up those who become the Diadochi here, these basically 5 guys, plus a council of about, 30, 100 other leading people, all agree that it's now a joint rulership between, Philip III, which is son of Philip II, Alexander's half-brother, who's mentally, gaga of some sort. I don't want to, say what type, because we don't really know from descriptions. But is mental, is very slow-witted. I mean, he might be able to tie his own shoes, but that's about it, is, I think, the idea. He and this newborn baby are Alexander's successors. I think this Cassandros family here becomes the guardians, and they eventually kill off Alexander's half-brother, Alexander's child, and Roxanne. It takes a few years, but they're killed off. But so long as they're alive, all these guys here, Lysimachus, Antigonus, Seleucus, not this one, but would be the elder, the father, Ptolemy, all of these guys all go on the basic sort of fiction that they're just holding together the empire for the coming for the coming successor. Hopefully the newborn will be, the blood of Alexander, and Philip of Macedon is going to be strong and great and rule. Yeah, okay. So, there's a bit of controversy over where Alexander wanted to be buried. Some say it's been a while since I read some. Some maybe think out in Siwa, but I don't really know if he had a strong emphasis on it. Okay, so they sometime after, months after his death, they get a funeral cortege, a procession that sets out from Babylonia of thousands of people. Okay, this isn't just, 50 guys carrying a dead body in a wagon. This has like a wagon that's like, you have a house built on it kind of thing that's moving toward Macedon. And they're going to take him back and bury him in Macedon. Well, remember one thing. Who becomes the heir to the king of Macedon? Not necessarily the heir to Alexander's new empire, but to the kingdom of Macedonia. He who buries the last king. Okay? So, you have these generals. Now, Ptolemy is, and they call him in this game Langrid. Well, I disagree with the term Langrid for Ptolemy. Ptolemy's mother, to the best of my understanding, and I forget her name, but we know who her name was. She was a very high-ranking woman in Macedonian court circles. She gets pregnant. I don't think there's any real talk that Langrid, using the last name, is the person who has impregnated her. So this is an unmarried woman who's impregnated, who then marries, if you will, a noble in the Macedonian court. I believe, I don't know this, and there's other people that have speculated on this. I believe that the father is Philip II. I think Ptolemy, who grows up side by side with Alexander, who is Alexander the Great and Ptolemy, are both taught by Aristotle. Aristotle was brought for a number of years to the Macedonian court by Alexander, paid to come up there to teach a group of children, including Alexander the Great. One of the similar aged was Ptolemy. Ptolemy and Alexander grow up as boyhood friends. I think he's Ptolemy is Alexander the Great's half brother. This is part of the reason why most Ptolemies are marrying each other, brother, sister, cousin, marrying, your aunt. They're marrying each other to keep the bloodline pure, because I believe it's important, not because ancient pharaohs did it. That's sort of the excuse I think that they put in, but they're really more Greek. It's the first one that I know of that's recorded Ptolemy to speak Egyptian is the famous Cleopatra, which is Cleopatra VII. Cleopatra is a Greek name. These were all a bunch of Greeks. Most of the Ptolemies are marrying each other, brother, sister, cousins. Close cousins, not like in the South that somebody's your cousin 4 times removed or something that you're related to distantly. But close cousins, you're marrying your niece, or you're marrying your aunt, that kind of thing. I don't know if Ptolemy knew. Now, Ptolemy, I don't think is a threat to Alexander's rule, because he is never publicly acknowledged by Philip as his son. So I don't think he is a threat to the dynasty. Meaning, if he he isn't like thought to be the next in line. It isn't like one of these situations where well, if Alexander dies, well, I'm the next one in line, so Alexander has to watch out for me. I think he was safe in that. I think that he was safe from the idea. So, of all of the guys, because again, these are sort of, I think by the age of this guy, because the original guys are all basically generals. They're all part of the companion cavalry of Alexander the Great. These are sort of cavalry that use the sarissa, the very long spear. And they sort of, the companion cavalry stays around, but those with leadership skills become basically generals or whatever. And a few maybe without good military leader skills sort of go into the empire administration elements under Alexander the Great. And so this procession that's going to go to Macedon, there's even, I'm wondering, was it even, because again, I'm just going off memory, people, and it's been a little while since I've read any of this stuff, that maybe he wanted to even be buried in Babylon. I'm not sure. But he, of course, when he wanted all this stuff, this was going to be 10, 20, 30 years down the road after his son is, at least, like young adulthood and going to be, around to carry on the generations. But, well, if I die, I'd want to be buried here. Nope. They decide they're going to take him to Macedon. Well, Ptolemy, who becomes Alexander's successor? He who buries Alexander. He captures the cortege and gets just about everything that's important out of it. I don't know how many of the people that come with him, but he gets, Alexander's body, and as we can see, no, I didn't want that. We can see here, the history of Alexander and the helmet of Alexander. He gets, his armor and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't want to do that. And he buries him down in Memphis. Sets up a tomb. I think they may know where it still sort of was or something. I don't know. I think they do, meaning it's still sort of there. Buries him down in Memphis. Now, once Alexandria, the city, is properly built, he moves Alexander here, puts him in a golden coffin that is not just gold leaf, and we know this because a later Ptolemy, before well before the time Caesar shows up, needs gold, so he takes that gold coffin and puts the body into an alabaster coffin that's huge, like out of obviously we don't know where it is, but either it's the slabs are big enough pieces, and or it's out of one big piece of alabaster that they get, and they carve it out, and they carve it thin enough that you can see through it. It's a see-through coffin, and this is part of the tourist attraction, shall we say, of this mausoleum, is that you can go in if you get permission to go in. The average person off the street isn't coming in. Visitors like Caesar and whoever are getting to show up. You pay the right level of gift to the temple, they'll walk you through and, take a look at the thing. And so you can see Alexander's body that is somewhat mummified. He still sort of looks like him. And it isn't mummified like the Egyptians. They don't do that. It just sort of dries out because of the desert kind of thing. And so they I say solid gold as in it's not just gold leaf or gold, a thin gold plate. It's a thick gold coffin that they melt down. It's worth that, much for gold coins. They melt it down and put them in an alabaster one, specifically for him. Okay, here's the mysterious thing. No one the fuck knows what happened to Alexander's coffin eventually. His body. We still don't know. It's just disappeared. There's this honking big huge building in the middle of Alexandria. And people are going and visiting it, and Alexander's there. And then about, after the Christians sort of come along, it's still there. And then after a while, somebody's recorded in the ancient world. This is still there. It's Alexander's tomb. Oh, well, it sort of was over there. It just disappears. Alexander's body disappears. I think because of the rise of Christianity, the last cult members, the people that took care of the tomb and everything else, they spirit it out and bury it somewhere in Egypt. And there are serious people. One woman who is Italian or something, I think, but she's been funding, looking not maybe sort of for Alexander, but mainly she's looking for the famous Cleopatra. Who was also sort of buried there, and Anthony, Marcus Antonius, looking for their graves. She thinks it's buried somewhere out right around this kind of area, but I don't know. The coffin disappears eventually. This is this is after the Christians are coming, taking over in this part of the world. So at the closing days of the Western Roman Empire, it disappears. Not of the Eastern Roman Empire, but of the Western Roman Empire. So this is how Ptolemy is assuring his. Now, why he's in Egypt? Well, all these guys sort of kind of like agree that as regents, this is too big of a kingdom to sit in Babylon and make the laws and govern it all. So we got to have regional, because the Persians used what they called were satraps. Satraps are sort of like governors, but are almost sort of independent, except they're not from the King of Kings, because that's sort of the way you would translate. It's not emperor, it's King of Kings, meaning that there can be other kings within the Persian Empire, the Achaemenid Empire, what we think of Persia, Darius and Xerxes and all those guys. There could be, other kingdoms, but the King of Kings is in charge. So if he shows up, he's in charge, but you're in charge of the satrap. But they'd often they'd make sure the satrap wasn't generational, and they'd periodically move them around so that they wouldn't get too much loyalty, so that they would, local loyalty, so they wouldn't, sort of like king governor, but they wanted to make sure that they weren't had a lot of local loyalty. So it wasn't the idea of the king of Cappadocia or some other, king of Armenia that was within the empire that might be, again, I'm just speculating on Armenia here, but that might have local loyalties. They tried to keep these guys as sort of like local kings, much more authority than we'd think of as governors. But they, tried to keep them moving around, so I don't know, 5-10 years, you'd be the satrap over here, then move you way over to here, and then, move, so, and swap them around, so they didn't have over loyalty. So their authority only came from being appointed by the King of Kings, not because of anything else. Definitely not generationally in an area. And so satrap was a very, very powerful idea, or leadership. And so that is sort of, that had already been put in place while Alexander, is using the old Persian system, sometimes using local Persians, sometimes using Greek, whether they be Macedonians or others, to be the local satrap, while he's off marching through Afghanistan and playing along the Indus River, and governing, being the satrap. Someone's being the satrap, I think he was Greek at the time, of Egypt, as it were, because Egypt had been under the Persian Empire until Alexander liberates it. So these guys, or maybe possibly their fathers, don't remember exactly which one, just he looks a little younger than maybe for the time, but I don't know. They sort of divvy this up. Okay, well, I'm going to go rule in Egypt. Well, okay, that's good. I'm going to go take this part. Oh, well, I'm going to go back and rule in, because this, again, is all under at least, whether real or fictitious, I don't know how much they were really thinking of it, looking out after for whoever's going to come as Alexander's proper successor. Somebody's going to go back and rule in Macedon. Somebody's going to rule out here, And so that's how they sort of split up the empire, as with the idea. And definitely through the time of the Diadochi, all of them believe, especially now, they really only come out as calling themselves, and again, I'm just going to call it basileus. Probably Basilius or something. I don't know. Basilius, Basilius, not quite sure. And I did look that word up recently. It has multiple meanings at different times in Greek. But around this time, before Alexander shows up, after Alexander shows up, it is sort of kind of goes back to the word king in Greek, which would sort of be rex in Latin or king in English, or König out of the German root. But it's really more boss, because none of these guys, to the best of my knowledge, at least the Diadochi and the Epigenoi, or however you say it, wrote it down, Epigoni, that's how you say it, which is the sons of these guys. None of them are like the Basilius of Persia or the Basilius of Egypt. They're Basilius and Pharaoh of Egypt, or Basilius and King of Macedon. Basilius is sort of like it's a performance-based idea. And you're ruling because not because you're anointed by God, not because you're a dictator, and there's sort of, whether in Rome or tyrant would be the Greek use, not because, Dusty, you're very right about the multicultural empire he was trying to build. There's a good documentary which I want to rewatch. Somebody found it for me again that I watched when I was young that very much talked about that. I'm going to rewatch it here soon. And so he's very much trying to do this, and like you say, multicultural empire. And so Basilius really isn't the Basilius, and at least the common meaning that these guys put it to is a performance quality. And you see Epirus, that sort of eventually springs forth here, is a Basilia, and it's personal rule. It isn't it's sort of in this part of the world that comes in, I don't know, some number of years from now. That it isn't a local cultural group. It's based on his sort of personal rule. So these guys are, their right to rule is their success at ruling, but they're not culturally seen as either a tyrant or as sometimes they are seen as king of Macedon, but that's not necessarily the king of Macedon, even though Ptolemy gets his body. Now his son, this guy here, Karanos Langrid is what they're calling him. He eventually does become king of Macedon for a while. When whoever it was dies, he's invited to come up to be king of Macedon. That opens the way for this guy, Ptolemaic Philadelphus, basically Ptolemy brother loving. I don't know however you want to say it. I don't mean lover as in sexual whatever, but just because sometimes it's like father loving or mother loving. I don't think they're normally not marrying their children. Aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, but he is the successor of this Ptolemy. This little baby here is the actual historical one. He goes off and eventually gets killed trying to rule Macedon. So yes, so it's a different sort of idea. So these guys here are not trying to limit themselves to a region for their legitimacy. They will, the Ptolemies through their history will style themselves Egypt or Pharaoh here, Basilius or king, if you will, here in Alexandria, and Basilius. Come on, get back here, get under control. Okay. And Basilius with here in Cyprus, which they rule for a long time. So a statue here will be in the Greek fashion, sometimes Greek and sometimes Egyptian fashion here, and Egyptian fashion down here. And so they present themselves in two different formats simultaneously. And the coins sometimes will, even for the same ruler, will have an Egyptian version and a Greek version of the coins. So basically, they were at the right place at the right time and claimed to rule in the name of the future king, but became greedy and just killed off. Well, the successors are sort of killed off once they get to Macedonia. But yeah, it's that point, too much. And there really isn't a central idea. But these are all sort of leading figures and really talented men. So the empire belongs to the strong of us. Well, we're going to keep the live stream going, but I'm going to end this episode here after the talk of how Ptolemy and the other guys get to be the leaders of the successors for Alexandria. We will continue this soon.